Hi, everybody. My name is Rita Crompton, and this is the first meeting in 2024 for Inventors Roundtable. Virtually. So glad to see all of you guys. And there is Wendy joining us. And so I'm not sure, the meeting we had a couple of weeks ago, there were 20 people there from all over the country. How many are going to be here at this meeting, but it's nice to see everybody. So Andrea, we're going to answer your question as soon as we get done with some introductions. And so if I forget, save it for me, okay? Okay, so sure. Introduce yourself. You're patent pending now. So you can tell everybody what you've got, and we're just going to go across the board and then talk about a few things.
Okay, so travel. Were you talking to me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, it's called a pet travel feeder on wheels, and it's basically food storage and travel accessories for a pet for up to 2 weeks. So that's where I am. I'm doing a prototype right now. It is patented at this point, and
patent pending.
Yeah, and
there's a difference.
Patent pending. Oh, okay. All right. I thought he did all the filing. It was a done deal.
No. There's a difference. I'll explain that later too. You asked the question. All right. All right.
And that's about it. Yeah.
All right. Jeff, introduce yourself and tell everybody what you're working on.
Yeah, I'm. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a prototype, prototype and a provisional patent, and I've filed my utility patent on a snow removal device, and so that's in the process. I'm working with Noah McNeely trying to get the a manufacturing type version going. So we're working on that. That's where I'm at.
Excellent. Are you there, Carol?
I'm here.
Hi. How are you tonight?
I'm good. Thank you.
Good. All right. So introduce yourself, and you are patent pending as well. So tell everyone what you've got.
I am Carolyn Eno, and I have a hands-free reading device holder that allows individuals to read for long periods of time without having to hold up the book or the device or magazine or whatever. And it's hands-free. It adjusts to the level of the eye stress on your shoulders and your neck. So that's a patent pending, provisional patent. And I'm hoping that we can take this to the next level.
Excellent. Good job. Wendy, hey, you're next.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm patent pending. I have a product called Float No More. It is a lap pad that you can either put on your lap or you can strap around your waist to hold you against a jet in a hot tub from floating away. A lot of people float away and float around and brace themselves. So this puts you back in the seat so you can actually relax and have your back relax, have your legs relax, whatever it is that you're trying to get relaxed and therapy on. This product allows you to actually do that without bracing yourself from floating away. So I am waiting on a prototype.
Yep, I can't wait to actually get in a hot tub and not be the one, fighting to stay in the hot tub. Because I tend to be the one that floats to the top. Yeah, even my grandsons don't have as much trouble staying in it as I do. So that's good. Sarah, it's good to see you. How are you?
I'm good. Hi, Rita. I've missed you. Sorry, I've been so inundated with things. I have my patent was issued in September, like August 31st, September 1st. So just a few months ago, my patent was issued. And so I have a utility patent and on a concrete trowel, on a concrete hand trowel. And so I'm working with Noah on doing the prototype still, and the prototype hopefully will be done in maybe 6 or 7 weeks. And my company is so early that I've got a COO that's helping me with things, and we're gonna like test the market and stuff this spring. And so he thinks we're too early to go to shows because he's afraid somebody else is gonna take it, even though it's patented.
That's another discussion. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm still in the early mode.
Yeah.
But yeah.
When you're patent pending and you're afraid that somebody's going to steal it, you should have used a different patent attorney. You know, otherwise it's just, you're going to be chasing NDAs the rest of your life. So, but that's what I have told people for, 15 years. It's like, get a different attorney if you're worried about it, because you got to be able to get out there. And so anyway, we were just, as we were starting recording and everybody was clicking on, Andrea and I were talking about, see, I told you to remind me. We were talking about, the trademark, whether or not you had to do anything. No, I actually have this little logo that says TM. So all you have to do is put it on there. I will put it on your trademark that you sent me, your little logo thing. But no, there's no cost using the TM. There isn't a cost on your trademark until you actually try to register it. But it's not unusual that you use the TM on your name. It's, kind of, like I said, the poor man's "this is mine" mark. Because when you license it, it is not unusual that the licensee wants to name it something else. And they want that right. I mean, it's not that expensive to, do a trademark registration. But honestly, if you had to choose between going to the trade show and getting your mark registered, go to the trade show. Because like I said, it's not unusual that the licensee wants to name it something else. We had, and I think a lot of you guys have heard me talk about the girl with the Stoma Saver product, and we licensed that and they signed it, but they did want a different name. And it's like, well, they hadn't filed a trademark on it or anything. They said, yeah, Rita told us you'd probably want to do that, so we are good, whatever you want to name it, because they will have it right in their lineup. Same thing with Dairy's product. You remember Dairy, right, Jeff?
Yeah, I think so.
From the tall Irish guy. We licensed his product, one of his, and they just signed the agreement over the weekend.
What was his product? I'll remember it better by product.
It was the caulking gun cap.
Oh yeah, right. Okay. Yeah.
And so that was the one that we licensed, and they also wanted to put it in their named lineup for their products. And he goes, fine, whatever you want, as long as you send me a check every quarter, you can call it whatever you want. So yeah. It's just not that unusual that they want. Every once in a while, we did the woman that had the disposal genie, and Danko kept that name for 15 years. They called it Disposal Genie. So you never know. It really depends on the licensee and what they want to call it. And generally, as long as you're getting a check, you really don't care. As long as people are buying it, what they call it. So, anyway, Jeff, you're working with Noah to get your prototype, right?
Yep. So we've got he's got things rendered. At least what he thinks is a good idea. So that's phase one. We get it rendered, and then we're gonna take it on through actually get one built, and then see if we can break it. So that's the next step. This thing takes quite a load when you're pushing snow against it, so it's got to be capable of, the force. So. Yeah,
that's for sure. I mean, we had our first shovelable snow over the last week. We've had our only shovelable snow for the year over the last week, which is, and it's almost gone. But yeah, we were talking about the fact that we needed to be out there shoveling, which is not what we planned on talking about when we moved to Tennessee, but.
Yeah.
That is, you can see from the back, from behind me, that was our reality. We had about 6 inches.
It's pretty, but it's not fun to deal with all the time. So
no, well, and rusty, everything turns to ice, so you can't even shovel your way down the hill. We have to hike down the hill about a half mile and carry the groceries up the hill another half a mile. Like, going down isn't bad, but man, that coming up with 8 bags of groceries, holy cow, got my attention. So, and anyway, Wendy, when do you expect to get your prototype from John?
He tells me first week of February. So I have my underwater camera, I have my model, I have my hot tub. I'm waiting for the prototype so I can strap it to her and say, go look pretty and let's take some video. So it'll be my first shot at doing that loop. I don't know what else to call it, but.
No, all you're doing is just, a 30 to 40 second video. And then, we'll send it to Mike and he will, format it as you need it. We'll use it then all over the place and you can put it on a thumb drive, and then the thumb drive will actually allow you to instruct it to keep playing. So it loops automatically.
So put it on a thumb drive and bring it to Vegas. Is that what I'm doing?
You can actually load it into the Google Drive that I set up for you. I send you the link, just put it right in there.
Okay.
We will have it. We will have it on multiple thumb drives and in multiple places.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. So anybody who's got videos that we're going to be using, that's how we'll do it. Just load them. Carol, I haven't created a drive for you yet.
I was wondering about it.
Yeah. So what we need from you, the name of the product and the logo. I can send you a couple. Andrea just sent me her logo to be using at the show, and Wendy had sent me hers last week. So these are all new. We're trying to get them loaded to the. We've got a full page ad that goes in the directory, and all of the logos that we get by the deadline will be on it. And then we've got a meter board that will be out in the main hallway. And again, we've got a hard deadline the end of January, but all of the logos that I have by then will be put on that as well, so that we can get as much out there. And then we just, we start loading them to the web page and doing everything that we can to start pushing out videos that we've done with you guys. Any videos that you've got where we've got the links, we push those out on the streaming platforms, so we get everything, flowing as much as we can out there. And then Wendy, I've had you on the radio, right?
Yes, you have.
Sarah, I've had you on the radio. Right. Jeff, have I had you on the radio yet?
Yeah, twice.
Oh, aren't you a lucky devil? Andrea, have you been on radio? Yes. Carol, I think you're the only one that has not been on the radio.
No, I've not been on the radio.
Well, let's fix that, okay?
Okay. All right.
All right. Well, and all you got to do is be able to answer your phone and then answer a couple of questions. And I send you the questions ahead of time. The goal is to have everybody who's going to go to the show on the radio within just a few weeks of the show opening. The radio people or the show people are actually going to be on the radio. They've become a sponsor of the radio show for a year. And so we were really excited about that. And they're going to be on the radio, and then they will join us in the booth also for some broadcasting.
Oh, great.
So that's very different than when we would go to the National Hardware Show and they would kind of ignore us.
Yes.
So, Jeff, you look like you're pondering a question.
No, actually, I'm just sitting up listening to all the activity here. It's great to have people on these things. Sometimes it's been just you and me. So
I know, right?
Yeah,
I know. And they're growing as we're posting out more and more. The meetings are growing. Like I said, the last one we had almost, I think, 20 people attend, and everybody got to ask questions and stuff. The radio show we did today, we were talking about how you want to make sure if, when it's possible that your product crosses then industry lines. So, a good patent is not industry specific. And the examples that we had, one of our patent attorneys was on, Jonathan. He did yours, Andrea, right? He was our industry expert who was on today. Carol, I think he did yours as well. And
yes, he did.
He was on, and we were talking about, industries, a good patent isn't industry specific. Now, sometimes it is. All right. A snow shovel is a shovel is a shovel. All right. But the one example, we had two examples. The gentleman that invented the the technique of refueling airplanes in the air. Someone told him, it's like, you don't want to make something like that industry specific. And now his technology is being used in outer space to move fluids from one spaceship to another. And the other lady, they had done the biodegradable fishing weight. And I told her, I said, is your patent industry specific? And she said, well, it says fishing on it. And I go, that's pretty specific. And I said, this could be used, when you think that it biodegrades, it's not eco-friendly, which means it doesn't poison the environment. It biodegrades. So it comes back from where it was. And I said, this could be used in construction, in agriculture, the road work, anywhere where they want to put down a weight that they don't want to have to go back and get, but they don't want it to, just sit there forever. They want it to biodegrade. And this biodegrades back into the material that it was made from the earth. And so they were a little angsty about their attorney not catching that. And so that's what we talked about today, was, sometimes products should not be industry specific. It's like, Wendy, we talked about yours being used in a hot tub, but then I said that could be used in therapy too.
Mm-hmm. That opens up a whole new level.
It does. It does. And then I think the week before we talked about getting, don't fizzle. And, so many beginning inventors that don't know what to do. And you're so excited. You're so excited about your product and getting it out there that you want to believe. And somebody's, oh, this is really cool. That'll be 10 grand. And so, don't do it that way. Take a deep breath and find out some other information and do it one step at a time. So that's what we've been talking about a lot, getting things out there, getting the websites done. So anybody have any questions? Andrea.
You said I could ask this later about the patented. Okay. When I think I'm patented, but I'm really not.
Right. Your patent pending file. When you file the provisional, you are patent pending, and when you file the utility, you are patent pending. Nobody passes judgment on the provisional patent. It's just filed. They look to make sure all the parts are there. You could do it on toilet paper and crayons, and so then you file the non-provisional or the utility. Those are synonymous. And it takes right around a year and a half before they publish it. When they publish it, it means, anybody could see it. It's still not issued. And it takes about another 6 months for you to get the first office action. And that is where, if you think about, getting your driver's license when you were 16 and they failed you just because they thought it would be fun, it's not unusual that the examiner will just say, no, we're not going to let this pass, and pushes back. They'll have things that, you and the attorney decide how best to answer it. And you push back again. It's kind of like a dance or tug of war, depending on your frame of mind. And, you go ahead and answer it. And then the attorney works through the best ways. That's why the search is so important when you start, because the attorney's got to know what's out there. And when you don't know the things that you're up against, it puts you at risk. All right, but you are patent pending, and it is nobody's business. All right, whether it's a patent pending on a provisional or patent pending on utility. All right, so when you go to the, and I tell inventors this all the time, when you go to the show and they ask you, no, we're patent pending. And if they say, well, did you file this or did you file that? It's like, that's proprietary information.
Okay, good.
Okay, the same thing if they ask you, what are your costs to manufacture it? All right, they get to know the wholesale cost or distributor costs. They don't get to know your cost. That also is proprietary information, because what they want to be able to do is to negotiate you down to just above your costs, and that can be a killer. Okay.
Are you going to go through this stuff before we hit Vegas? Because I envision people asking everybody that.
Yes, and what we do before we go to the show is we do a briefing about 2 weeks at a time. I don't want to do them too far ahead of time because everybody forgets. Right. So we do about 2 weeks ahead of time, and then I let everybody ask the questions. We talk about how to do with the conversation, just to be out there and talking to people, how you open the conversation with different questions. somebody just walking by and looks at that. What brings you to the show today? Oh, well, my husband does this. I'm here getting, all the freebies. Don't waste your time. My husband's the owner of this kind of store. Oh, what kind of store is it? And his name. And so, things like that. I'm here as a buyer. Those are the people you want to be able to talk to. But yeah, we go through all of that.
Okay.
Just so you know that.
Rita, I have a
Yes,
question.
Carol.
Okay, so when you're at the show, my question is, are they going to be looking at the concept, or I don't have any duplicates of my prototype. It's just one prototype. And so what my feeling is that I'm not sure my prototype is as sturdy
So have you
as
been?
I'd like. So, what concept is sufficient for
Well, yeah. I mean, they're not going to be using it. They're going to look at what it is and how it's, and then you're going to you'll be able to get feedback. And this is one of the things that we'll discuss with the briefing is, when you are there with just your prototype, what questions do you ask? What kind of information are you trying to gather? And, other people will be there taking orders. And others now have got, they're strictly looking at licensing. And then there's others that are very beginning stages and they want different types of feedback. They want to know packaging and pricing and durability and interest. All right.
Okay, that's so. If you don't have,
all right.
So that should be available for them at the show.
Right. You want your prototype to be available for them to look at the show.
No, I mean pricing and the cost.
You'll be able to ask people. You'll be able to ask buyers, about your product. That's what you want to be able to get is the feedback.
I see. Like manufacturers, you mean? Like
buyers, store owners, manufacturers, suppliers, all of those people.
Engineers.
Yeah.
This part.
Jeff, why don't you share? You've been to a couple of trade shows, right?
Okay.
You went to the national.
National Hardware last year. Yeah.
Share with the ladies kind of, you were out there on, on the front lines. You were talking to people about your product. Tell them, kind of some of the questions that you were able to field out there and the things you were able to ask.
Well, number one, is it available yet? We'd like to get one or whatever. And that was a question I got. And then, are you manufacturing it? What's the cost? They did ask cost. I didn't have any cost because all I had was mine was a garage prototype at the time. So it's all retail parts integrated together. So it's not really viable in terms of what they're asking. There was did a couple of videos. We did the one from our radio host down at down from Georgia, and then they had another guy come by. What was his name? Something the show or the YouTube channel called something Monkey, and he came by and he spent a lot of time talking about what it did. Show me what it does. How do you demo it? Can you tell me what the uses of it? Because mine is not just snow. You can do things like it can be a rake. You can be, you can basically push things out of your garage. I live in Colorado, a lot of snow, so your cars drag a lot of dirt, snow, mud, everything in, and you can push all that stuff out. So it's kind of a multi-tool. So what are the uses? That kind of thing. So.
Yeah, it helps to see the interest. It helps to, get the question asked.
Yeah.
Because it helps you refine your pitch too. That's one of the things that we noticed when we'd sent out, we'd start sending out flyers for the sell sheet for the lead fishes, for the lead-free fishing weight. And one of the guys, he must have called me within 5 or 10 minutes after we posted the sell sheet to him on LinkedIn. And he asked me some very good questions. Well, they manufacture weights, fishing weights. And so the questions that he asked, I wrote down, and we went back and revamped the sell sheet to deal with those questions because they were relevant for sure. And we just didn't know till we asked. And He goes, well, all right, I see where you changed the sell sheet to deal with my questions, but now I want to actually see one of the weights to see if you really did, have these things covered. So we sent him then a sample of the product. But it was funny because you don't always know what those buyers are going to ask until they're standing in front of you and they ask it. And then you can deal with it. Is that, holy cow, that's a really good question. Never really thought about that. For a lot of folks that are working just with the prototype, you can get some feedback and some suggestions that said, maybe I'll make that change. And so it really does help. We see people go to shows for three reasons. One is they want feedback and they want to see what the interest is for the product. And then they want to be able to look for licensing is the other one, where they're really ready to license and they're teed up. And then the other one is, people that actually have some inventory and they're wanting to do sales. So depending on where, you are in the process, you learn a lot. And a lot of times, just not having, people don't want to waste the money to go alone when they're looking for information. But you can't go to a show by yourself and just walk around and ask questions. They will escort you out. So one way to go and be able to collect the information is to go, you've got the prototype, and be able to show it and talk about it and gather information. And that way, instead of people asking, just asking you questions, you're able to ask them some questions. What would your price point be? What do you think your, consumers would pay for this product? Well, I've had inventors that thought, oh, $150, and the buyers say tops $49.99. Well, now you've got different things to look at. Do you have to change the design? I've had inventors that actually went back with their prototyper and said, this is not going to work, and we've got to get the price down.
If we don't know what our price point is, I know what it's costing me to make these, but if I don't know if it's $29.99, $39.99, $49.99, how do you ask that in a normal conversation when you have all these streams of people just, buzzing by?
Well, when you somebody that's talking about, even if it would be somebody that got their own hot tub and they, oh yeah, I'd love to have one of these. It's like, what would you pay for this?
Okay.
We are in the development stage. What would a price point be? And what happens is you'll get a whole bunch of them that'll generally be targeted around one area, and then you get extremes on both ends. And you throw those out and you say, all right, everybody's telling me this has got to be a, $49.99 product.
Okay.
This has got to be this kind of product. We had one guy that people were telling him, it's like, okay, this has got to be a $10 product. Well, it wasn't going to be a $10 product. It was going to be a $19.99 product. So it's still under the $25 range, but how much are you willing to spend to save your life? So,
right.
$20 didn't seem like such a big deal.
I think one of the things that I learned last year was the types of people that might use it. I envision my product to be more of like a residential, or maybe in terms of cleaning sidewalks or something like that, a more small retail space type use. But I had three things that were interesting to me. Had a guy come by from a lumber mill. Actually, several people come by from lumber mills on the West Coast, on the Northwest. And they saw it as a great way of cleaning up in the saw area, where they have tons of sawdust, small wood chips and things like that they don't broom up very well. So this thing would take care of that. So they like that. Then I had another company that did large earth moving and diesel truck manufacture or mechanics type stuff. They were getting all these heavy oils and heavy particulates down on the floor from these vehicles being worked on, and they needed something to use for that. So I thought that was kind of an interesting aspect. And then a couple guys in our booth were in the construction industry, and they thought it'd be great for when you're make ready on homes. So if you've ever built a home, and when I built a home a few years ago, you're getting ready for carpet, got all your cabinets in, all that stuff, and so the floor is covered with everything under the sun: nails, sawdust, wood chips, spare, broken pieces of whatever, wiring, Romex, all this stuff, and you gotta push it up, and a broom doesn't necessarily work that well. So this thing would work really well for that. So So you can get ideas of people you might talk to when your product matures to the point where you can actually get production and sell it.
Yeah, and that's what I noticed
Hey.
too, is people will really learn some different things that they can do with their product, maybe different uses for their product. And that's always good information, because it really helps you then refine your pitch, be able to talk to people, and sometimes you go back and you make some adjustments to your prototype.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Jeff, also, what about like in the farm setting? Because there's a couple different elements in the farm that probably needs better shovels, like when they're doing the grain and stuff like that. And then also the animal poop and stuff like that, So the farm industry, I could see benefiting from good shovels.
Yeah, and like kennels, you have dog excrement and all that on the floor, but you also have dog food and all this other kind of stuff that gets all mixed in with that. So again, this thing has a really strong rubber edge on it, so it picks up along the floor, it slides along surfaces, and it goes over imperfections in surfaces. So like if you have expansion joints, or you have concrete that's not quite perfect, it kind of glides over that. It gives and bends. So and you run into that kind of thing in a lot of different areas, and that's a really good thought. Farm industry. Yeah.
I could see it being used in zoos.
Yeah. Zoos. Yeah.
Any of the places where you got animals, feed, just lots of different places, certainly not just for snow.
Yeah, you use it. I've been using it for years in the back of my pickup because it doesn't scratch. So you can take this 4-foot wide blade and just push things out of the pickup. It doesn't scratch the bed like a steel edged shovel might do. And it's great on my composite decks.
Yeah.
Trucks, designer concrete surfaces, all those types of things. Don't scratch them.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, we've got a wood deck that is covered in snow. I would love to have your shovel, because I won't use a regular shovel. I don't want to scratch it. I spent too many hours painting it last year.
Yeah.
So, but it's going to the shows where you really learn how to expand your technology, and because people ask better questions, and you're dealing now, instead of the consumer shows where you're dealing with just one person, you're dealing with somebody who represents hundreds of buyers, hundreds of consumers, and it helps you really expand. We had one year, there was a gentleman that had paid for 25,000 cartons packaging for his product. And everybody hated the packaging. And his wife was so frustrated, because now she had 25,000 of these things that were never going to be used because nobody wanted that packaging. And so that's another thing that you can always ask is, what kind of packaging do you see, being on this? And, if you're selling them only online, you can put it in a Ziploc bag. But if you're, on a store shelf or someplace, you need to have something that's a little bit different. And different stores require different things.
I would think, Jeff, personally in my garage, if I had a shovel like that, you might think about having a case also, to store it in, because when it's like a toilet plunger, you know what I mean? It's like it gets dirty and you don't want to put that dirty. I mean, different than toilet plunger, but if you think about the farm concept, it's like, I don't know, just thinking. Yeah,
my big focus with it was the size, because it's got a 4-foot blade and it's about 6 inches high, and then it's on a protruded fiberglass handle. So, that typically doesn't store real well in your garage. You lean up against the wall, or you try to beat hooks and kind of hang it up high on the ceiling or whatever. And this thing, it folds up and it hangs almost, the handle's now parallel with the blade itself. So it folds into that, and you can just stick it in one of these tool racks, so it doesn't take up a lot of room. But you're right. I mean, if it's got crud all over it, it'll drip on the floor and all that kind of thing, so.
Yeah.
Cool. My husband hasn't used a tool that he didn't wash before he put away in the 20 years I have known the man. So some people are just adamant about cleaning it. He wants it cleaned every time when he goes to grab it. He wants it cleaned. So he cleans it before he puts it away. And they're, depending on what you've been out there pushing around, you just you don't want to, so you clean it. And if it's not a big deal, you hang it and you're off to the races. Fortunately, all of our tools hang in our pump house. They don't hang in our garage. But then again, he's got it all clean because there's a hose right there by the pump house.
Yeah, it's one of the elements of my tool that I'm still, you know, it probably won't be for another 6 months that I'll like really decide what direction I'm going to go. But with my tool, because it's concrete and it's like looks like a propeller, like a helicopter propeller. And, you know, when you use concrete mud or drywall mud, you have to rinse it right away. Otherwise the blade gets
sticks on there. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, scooch over just a little bit, Sarah. The sun is setting.
There we go. I know. I wasn't looking at myself until now. Now I am. And so, so let's see. So one of the things that I'm working on doing is maybe the idea of putting together a line of storage containers as well in the garage that kind of double as cleaning. Because, you know, when you do the mud paddle with the and you mix the mud and it's like, that's dirty, you know, you have to clean it before you store it. So because my tool is along those lines, I'm thinking about putting together some sort of, cleaning boxes that store and that are cute in the garage. So we'll see how that goes.
So Sarah, can you describe what your tool does, or is it too proprietary to do that?
No, it's totally cool. It finishes concrete. It replaces the regular hand trowel, the steel rectangle. It's actually a power trowel on a drill. So it's a drill bit. It's got a chuck and it goes on a drill. Yep. And then, have you seen the bigger power trowels?
No, I haven't seen a power trowel.
So when they finish concrete on a big job, they either use one that you can ride on or one that you can walk behind, or there's bigger motorized ones on bigger concrete jobs when you finish concrete. And then on the smaller jobs, you just use the rectangle, the steel trowel. And so mine basically pulls the power trowel onto the hand drill so that finishing concrete is easier for people, because it's actually not easy to finish concrete with a trowel. It takes a lot of years to learn how to do it where you're not getting marks on the concrete. So, and it also has a wall patent, so it's patented to work with walls, which China and India are #1 and 2 in consumption of concrete. And so my real goal is to get over there, but not for another year or two, because we want to brand it first in the US because it's so difficult. But their walls are made out of concrete. And so the idea of having a tool that goes much faster, and then the other thing that my patent covers is robots. So the next thing right now, what we're working on is making a robotic trowel. So it's like a Roomba, only with a foundation. So it'll sense the area. And then the guy who's helping me with my patent right now, he patented auto driving. And so he's really brilliant with robotic stuff. And he's, so we're also working on a big power trowel that's an auto one instead of one that somebody rides on or pushes.
So when it works like a propeller, I don't want to get us down a rabbit hole here, but it's going around in a circle as you move it along the concrete. I think of finishing a concrete floor. Normally you get all the rough in, and then you basically drag this large thing on a pole or whatever that basically takes and pushes the aggregate down essentially and makes this, I call it the cream on the top. So your garage floor is smooth, or your concrete's smoother, that type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is similar. It's the step after the bowl float, which we're talking about, like a bowl float, where that big long thing that you drag over, that goes first. And then the next step that you would do to cream it up is to use a trowel, a hand trowel, And so you'd either use the steel rectangle, and you'd press it down even more, and you make it more compact so that the concrete doesn't. And so, but
Gotcha.
this one just uses like a fan. It looks like a fan on a drill, and it presses the concrete down more effectively, more efficiently. And there's a lot of burns. There's a lot of chemical burns with concrete. So this is gonna take the skin away from the mud.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. So you're still out, the guys are still out on their knees on a board, maybe out on the surface as they move this thing along.
We're having the chuck be longer, so I'm interested to see. Even we're thinking about having like a weed eater type of like where you could actually
There you go.
up and use it,
Yep.
So we've been experimenting. The first one didn't have that long of a chuck. My prototypes didn't have that long of a chuck. So we're going to be experimenting with the longer chuck.
Cool.
Eventually, I'm guessing that you will end up going to a show.
Yes, I will, Rita. I'm going to be going to a show. I can't wait.
Right.
I just don't know when.
One thing to keep in mind, all right, don't let them put you into an inventor section of the show.
Okay.
Don't do that. All right.
Talking to you.
There's, like the National Hardware Show is at the inventor spotlight section called, Next or something like that. It's the kiss of death for an inventor. All right. It's a feeding frenzy and you are the main course. The only people who go around there are the ones looking to sell you or filter you into a certain mode. All right. So you don't get a lot of flexibility. When you go, be on the main floor, be an exhibitor, don't use the word invention or new product when you're describing what you're doing. Just stay focused on the product and what it does. I'm selling.
Yeah, they don't want me to do any trade shows for a little bit because we're still like, it's been taking a little bit long. I mean, it's taken a little bit for me to get the funding. Right now I'm in a seed round and we're trying to raise $150,000 to, and that's basically looking like 5% of the value of the company right now. But according to my business plan, that this really brilliant guy is working with me on, we should sell about $1 million. He wants to just sell it and also license it. So, licensing is a direction that we want to also take, but we figure we can sell almost $1 million in the first year, almost $5 million in the next year, over 20 million in year 5 in the US.
So, but again, when you do get to go to a show, then, because I've been to the ABC Kids Expo. If you use the word inventor when you're talking about your product, you come off. Nobody even same thing with a lot of the other shows. They push inventors to a bad corner, and you don't want to do that. If you're going to pay to go to a show, you want to be in the front. You want to be in a good spot. You want to be able to talk to the real buyers, not the people just trying to sell you services. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're not going you're not going with us. If you're going to a different one, just don't let them force you into.
Yeah, my guys don't want me to go to NA yet because it's just we don't have the money for that right now. Right, we're making the website, so the website will be done soon, and then the prototype cost, and then
Well, one is going to come up eventually.
Yeah.
And so you want to be able to pick a good one, and you want to be able to, you want to be able to do it right, and get the biggest bang for your buck. So you want to be able to see the buyers, not somebody trying to sell you services.
Cool.
And those intersections are just notorious. I've had people come by crying. I've had women come by crying, saying, "Why am I not here?" And it's like, I don't know. I've been advertising everywhere, but they were back in one of those corners and just felt like they were really, missing out on why they were there. So all you can do is just really watch it, ask questions, attend it and say, "All right, I'm ready to go to a show," when you're ready, and then say, "What do I do? How do I get this teed up?"
Yeah, exactly. I know I've had to sit on my hands a little bit because I wanted to go faster than I'm going, but whatever.
So no, but we'll be watching. We want to see what you're doing and how you're making progress.
Thank you.
So, Carol, do you have any more questions for us?
No, she's mute.
She's
She's on
mute.
mute.
All right. Wendy, do you have any more questions for us?
I'm emailing you. I need your opinion. So I need you to come back and tell me which one you like better. I'm on the business cards. So I'm just trying to get
Okay.
ready so that when I get there, I don't look like a goober and, you know,
You won't. That's for sure. No, we make sure. And as you know, and all the questions you guys ask, I'm sure you've seen some of the emails that go back. It's like, I just asked her this. It's because you asked that I remembered to put it in an email. So you ask very good questions, and I share it with everybody, because if you're thinking it, somebody else is. And you know, we're trying to get all the information out there and do a lot of things. See, I did not get the contract for ASD Market Week until the first week in January. So we have been just racing like crazy on multiple fronts to get everything done. And it's like, of course, we get the contract, and then a week later they're saying, oh, yeah, we have these deadlines where we need your artwork. And it's like, oh, didn't see that one coming, because we're doing some new things with them that we hadn't done before. They've actually got the show is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but they have a special opening on Saturday. So if there was a particular buyer that we wanted to talk to, we could invite them in on Saturday for a private showing of your product. And it's like, wait a minute, we're setting up on Friday and Saturday. We're not showing on Friday and Saturday. And they said, it's private. You don't have to worry about it, but there will be people walking by that may say, oh, that looks kind of cool. So this is it's just a huge show. It's, you know, huge. We haven't done this biggest show before and stuff. So you will be exhausted, dressed from the shoes up. You know, if you need to go and sit down, you need to go get something to eat, go do it. We don't keep chairs in the booth, but go find, you know, there's always seating pretty close by, and go sit down, take a break. You're not going to want to go lay by the pool. I can tell you that for sure. It's going to be freezing cold. But other than that, you know, it's work. And I've been going to this thing you know, a show like this for 17 years. I don't think I've been in a casino in 15. Because we just, that's not what I go for. I go back, relax, and generally sit at my computer and get some work done. But other folks go to shows, you know, say, you know, hey, family's coming and we're going to go do this and we're going to go, you know, see this. It's like, go and have a good time. You're in Vegas, for goodness sake. Some people want to go and have a good time. Been there, done that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I do have a question. So here's my question. So we go, and for those of us that get a licensing agreement or get some leads or whatever, hallelujah, that's a wonderful thing. For those of us that don't, at the end of those million days, we're standing there hours on end, and then at the end of the day, all we have is a bunch of papers of people that might be interested, but we have no concrete like thing. What do we do?
You won't have a concrete thing when you leave.
Okay.
All right. And part of that is because any company that wants to bully you into a licensing agreement while you're standing there is not a good company to work with.
Okay.
They're usually the ones that have worse background checks. All right. So we gather all the information. You gather the information about your product. You know, do you need to make any changes? You know, do we need to focus on any design elements? You know, and then we go back and we look at the leads we get. Now, there's been different companies. I'm not sure. I've got to ask them about their lead retrieval system. Is it something that we have to do ourselves, or is it something that, you know, they're going to help facilitate with, you know, little scanners and stuff like that? Then we'll know more. When we get back, all the leads that you've taken or that any of my staff has taken for your product, that's when the work starts, is after the show. We're gathering at the show, gathering information, gathering leads, trying to get the word out, show off the products. And then when we get back is when the work starts. And that's when we're going out and looking for what are the next steps on this product. You know, Jeff decided he's going to go ahead and get a prototype made and sexy it up. All right. Somebody else says, no, I can go after licensing. And so that's when we, you know, that's when we go start going after things. And so we look at the leads we gathered. We get them on a spreadsheet. We start posting on LinkedIn. Oh, Jack, we met you at, you know, the show. We launched this product. You know, can you give us some feedback? That kind of thing.
Okay.
That work starts after the show.
Okay.
It's 4 days, feet on the ground, but it is 6 months after the show a lot of work.
Just go-
And that's what we,
Okay.
if I'm your licensing agent, if me and my team, your licensing agent, that's when we start following up on all that stuff.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Mhm.
You're welcome. So Wendy, have I sent you your licensing agreement?
Yes, I just haven't delved into all that yet.
All
I
right.
do have it.
Andrea, have I sent you yours?
Me? No.
All right. Send me your address. I'll get it back to you. Jeff, we've got one with you.
Hmm.
Licensing agreement. All right. Well, when you get done with your sexy prototype, I would really like, update your sell sheet and get that going.
Okay.
All right. And Sarah, you're on hold for yours. I know I'm pretty sure I sent it to you. But we can make some adjustments based on, your your new business plan and formatting of what you're doing.
Thank you.
Right. So I had a conference call with a husband and wife team that have invented a new water filtration system, and we were discussing the licensing agreement that they're in the middle of making. And he's actually got a separate contract with them to be the consultant. And Sarah, you could find that with a licensee that on that type of equipment, you are their main consultant. Okay.
That's awesome.
And certainly any changes or design elements dealing with your product specifically, you would have to be consulted, and you always maintain your intellectual property.
Yeah.
Okay, it's the only thing that gives you leverage. You never sign it to anybody. I know the one guy that we signed over the weekend, that was their first question that the licensee said, well, he's going to assign all that intellectual property to Dripless. And I go, no, he's not. And so then they said they wouldn't deal with me. They would only deal directly with him. And so I sent back then the terms that were more reasonable. They go, okay, fine. He doesn't have to assign it to us. And so there was, he said, fine, and we'll deal with you too. So, so we did go back and forth with a couple things, but they were very good to deal with. And so was the inventor. And now his mold is being shipped to them and they're paying for it. So that's all good.
Wow.
That's all good.
Great. Yeah.
If you're reasonable, they'll be reasonable. And if they're not reasonable, walk away.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Carol.
Okay, I just wanted to know offhand if you have any idea, like in terms of the shows, what is the terms of the amount of success that you've had where people have had companies that were interested in their product and the return that, that the show gave them the opportunity that they're looking for?
That's all over the place, and it's really hard to answer. We've gotten licensing deals, we've gotten interest.
Is there any statistics on that?
There really isn't, because a lot of people, they'll go to show with us and I'm not their licensing agent, so it's hard to really do any follow-up. They're looking at selling their product and going directly, and they have. The one gentleman that last year won the Retailer's Choice Award, he's got inventory, he's doing shipping, and so it's, there as statistics go, no, there's really not, because like I said, a lot of the work gets done afterwards. Derry was there last year. We're just signing his agreement. The one couple that we signed their agreement in July, they were at a different show. They were at a medical conference. So it's hard to say, okay, well, these are the numbers, because I would be guessing they're all.
That's fair. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. All right. Anybody else have any questions? Comments? Want to make $1 million? Yay. All right. All right, you guys. Take care. I hope to see you next month. And we'll have one more meeting before we run off to the trade show. I think one of our meetings will be canceled because we will be at the trade show. But we'll post all of those so everybody knows what's going on and where we're at. And, I'll see most of you pretty darn quick. All right. Talk to you later. Have a good one.
Right, Chief.
Bye, everybody.
See you.
Bye-bye. Bye.